So today, we're going to dive into a text that gives a really powerful and frankly pretty alarming diagnosis of our modern world. It all starts by tapping into a feeling that, you might know all too well, this kind of creeping sense that a crisis is just around the corner.
And that quote right there really sets the stage. The author is basically saying, look, this isn't just people being dramatic. It's a real symptom of a huge problem, a global anxiety that something is just deeply wrong with our world, with our environment, and our societies.
So that leads to the big question, right? If we're really facing a crisis this massive, what's the actual root cause? Let's start digging and see if we can identify the culprit.
Okay, so the investigation first points its finger at one thing: industrialism. But the way it's analyzed here is probably a bit more nuanced than you might think. It's not about, going and smashing all the machines. It's about asking what's really driving them.
Before we jump to any conclusions, the source makes this really important distinction. Industry itself isn't presented as some evil thing. It's just a tool, and a powerful one at that. Think of it like nuclear power. It can be used for incredible good or for incredible destruction. So the problem isn't the tool, it's the ideology of the person wielding it.
And this is where the text really draws a line in the sand. When industry's goal is to serve society, you get progress, you get community service, you get shared value. But when its only goal is to make a profit for monopolies, well, that's when it flips into a force for disaster, control, and even war.
The text uses this really powerful metaphor for what happens. It calls this profit-driven industrialism a monster, a beast that's gotten off its leash, that's grown beyond our control, and now it's just consuming the very foundations of our society, all for the benefit of a select few.
So what is this monster actually accused of? Well, the text lays out a whole chart sheet. It argues this system attacks agriculture, which for thousands of years was the basis of human society. It's accused of creating mass unemployment, of wrecking the environment, of creating these endless boom-and-bust economic crises, and even fueling wars over resources. And this point right here, it's absolutely central to the whole analysis. For pretty much all of human history, our identity was tied to the land. The source argues that cutting that connection isn't just some small economic shift, it's a fundamental attack on who we are. Now, every prime suspect needs a hideout, right? A base of operations. And according to this analysis, the industrial monster's hideout is the modern megacity.
So to really get a sense of the scale we're talking about, the text gives us a little historical perspective. Way back when, the philosopher Aristotle was thinking about the perfect community. For him, the ideal city had about 5,000 people. A size where you could still have real social connections, where things could be run rationally.
Okay, so you have that 5,000 number in your head. Now look at this. The target population for a modern megacity, as cited in this source, 25 million. The difference is it's staggering.
Seeing a jump like that, you have to ask yourself a serious question. Is this a sign of healthy progress, or is this something else entirely? Is it growth, or is it more like a disease?
The text has a pretty intense name for this phenomenon. It calls it cancerological growth. And the metaphor is pretty clear. Like a tumor, the megacity is described as growing without any limits, just devouring the countryside, damaging the environment, and creating this deep sense of social isolation.
What this leads to, according to the text, is this bizarre reversal of the old model of colonialism. It creates a new kind of internal colonialism, where these massive cities start to exploit their own rural backyards, basically draining them of resources and people. The city starts eating its own country.
All right, so we've looked at the problem as diagnosed by the source material. We've got this industrial monster and this cancerous city. But the text doesn't just leave us there. It also proposes a verdict and a path forward. The alternative vision it puts forward is called democratic modernity. And let's be clear, this isn't about rejecting progress or going back in time. It's about radically reimagining what progress even means, a modernity that's meant to serve people and the planet, not just profit.
At the very heart of this new vision is a concept the source calls eco-industry or eco-industry. The idea is both simple and, honestly, pretty radical. Industry has to operate by two hard rules. Rule 1, it cannot violate the ecological balance of the planet. And Rule 2, its main job has to be meeting the fundamental needs of society. That's it.
And this visual, right here, really gives you a feel for that ideal. It's a vision of a world where society isn't seen as something separate from nature or at war with it, but as something deeply rooted within it, thriving together in a symbiotic relationship. So how do we get there?
Well, the text actually outlines a clear four-step path. First, you reconnect industry with ecology. Second, you shift the whole focus of the economy from monopoly profits to community needs. Third, you work to restore the balance between the city and the countryside. And fourth, and this one is critical, you empower local communities to actually manage their own economic lives.
And if this shift were to happen, the promises, according to this text, would be absolutely game-changing. We're talking about an end to unemployment, an end to wasteful overproduction, real harmony between cities and the countryside, and an economy that's a foundation for peace, not war, because it's managed directly by the community.
So what this all boils down to is a radical democratization of the economy. That deep feeling of alienation, of being disconnected that so many people feel, the text argues the only way to heal that is to put communities back in control of their own economic destinies.
And that kind of leaves us with this final thought. The text we've just explored doesn't give us a prediction, it gives us a choice. It lays out two very different paths, one driven by a system it calls a monster, and another guided by what it calls an ecological society. So the question it leaves for us is a simple one. Which path are we on right now? And more importantly, where do we want to go?